Hello, and welcome to the first ever Frontline Summit from Workvivo by Zoom. I'm your host, Barbara Boris, joining you live from Workvivo's US headquarters in the great city of Boston. I am beyond excited to be with you today, and just look at this incredible turnout. We have thousands of people joining us from all over the globe, and I could not be more blown away. You've showed up today from every corner of the world to reimagine how we can support, engage, and connect with our frontline teams. And it's just so cool to watch people just piling on in. Today, we have HR leaders, internal comms pros, IT and operations managers joining us. And it's absolutely staggering, maybe a little intimidating, but no pressure, right? Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in live. We are so psyched to have you with us and cannot wait to kick things off. The agenda today is stacked. We're going to hear from top voices in employee experience, listen in on frontline stories that will move you, and dig into insights from some of the world's most recognizable brands. The summit is packed with ideas and strategies that you can take back, implement, and create real impact at your organization. Today also marks a huge milestone. It's the global launch of the Frontline Gap Report. This is the largest study we've ever done, surveying over 7,500 frontline employees across multiple industries and regions. What did we learn? The results paint a powerful picture of overlooked voices, untapped potential, and a vital need to rethink how we show up for our frontline. We're going to be unpacking it all together right here, live, throughout today's summit. If you want to check out the full report, it's available now in the resources tab below. So let's get this fired up. Let us know in the chat where you're joining us from. You can just jump right in that chat. We've got Bangalore, India. Oh my goodness. Austin. We got London in the house. North Carolina. We got LA. Another person from London. Madrid. Chicago. Perth, Australia. Oh my gosh, this is bananas. Orlando, Florida. Paris. Bath, Maine. Trinidad. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. I think we must have probably half of the country of Ireland tuning in. Amazing, amazing. Please keep going in the chat. We want to keep that energy and excitement up today. So in true Workvivo fashion, we have what else but a competition. We're going to be giving away 3 $200 Visa gift cards during today's summit. So whether you spend it on a little getaway, dinner with a friend, or a treat yourself moment, which I totally encourage, the choice is yours. To enter, first, follow Workvivo by Zoom on LinkedIn. We've got a link posted in the chat. Go ahead, click that link. Then make a post sharing a screenshot from today's summit with your favorite takeaway. Be sure to tag Workvivo in the post. We'll be randomly selecting winners throughout the summit up until the end. But most importantly, in order to win, you have to be with us live, so you're going to want to stay tuned. So pull up your LinkedIn now, get those entries in, and oh, please, only flattering screenshots of me, okay? Seriously. All right, to kick us off, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce someone who really needs no introduction. With a background that spans from leading global support teams at EMC to steering HR tech innovation at Core HR, he's always been at the forefront of enhancing workplace communication. He's someone who leads with passion, kindness, and is a true believer in the power of connection and culture. When he's not busy traveling the world and spreading the gospel of employee experience, you just might find him doing his best karaoke version of Sweet Caroline. Please give a warm welcome to our first speaker of the day, CEO and co-founder of Workvivo by Zoom, John Goulding.
Hello, and welcome everybody to the first ever Frontline Summit by Workvivo. This is a really important event for us. It's such an important topic, and we feel it doesn't get enough attention. With over 80% of the workforce globally working in frontline roles, their experience is often forgotten when we're talking about the future of work. So what do we mean by frontline? When we talk about frontline, we mean anyone who's not working in an office. These are people we interact with every day, assisting us in stores, boarding us on aeroplanes, and treating us in hospital. When we founded Workvivo, we designed it to inform, engage, and connect every employee. We didn't design it specifically for frontline workers, but what we have found is that frontline workers actually get the most value from the Workvivo platform. It has been amazing for us to see the impact that Workvivo has on millions of frontline workers. Their experience at major brands, including airlines like Ryanair and Delta, restaurants like White Castle and Guzman y Gomez, retail stores like Verizon and Kmart, and healthcare providers like Bupa and the NHS. You'll hear from some of them later about how they're engaging frontline workers on construction sites in the Middle East like Nesma to Verizon stores in the US. We're also so excited to be doubling down on our frontline offering to make the experience even better. Workvivo for Frontline includes a recently launched best-in-class chat solution to empower instant real-time communication designed for frontline workers on the move. We're investing incredibly strongly in Workvivo for Frontline, and we have an amazing roadmap for the year ahead that includes video and voice calling, powered by Zoom, task and shift management, and an AI-powered knowledge base, all with an incredibly strong mobile-first user interface. Workvivo is a powerful solution for frontline workers, with many of the world's largest brands and employers using it as their central hub. We want Workvivo to be the go-to communications, operations, and engagement platform for millions more frontline workers. Frontline workers in different industries have different roles and workplaces, but their needs are fundamentally the same. They want to feel informed, engaged, and connected. Reaching employees who may not have email addresses and who are busy on their feet with content that is relevant and valuable to them is a huge challenge, but we are here to help. And today, we are also launching an important piece of research on what we call the frontline gap. We can all see that there's a gap in employee experience for frontline workers compared with desk workers. And the first step to closing this gap is understanding where the challenges are. According to our research, half of frontline workers said their company cares about office workers more than them. 87% of frontline workers aren't sure their company culture applies to them. And 40% of them say their company doesn't care about them as a person. I'd encourage you to read this report, and we'll share it with you after the event to see some really stark statistics and get insight into your frontline workers' experience. But for now, sit back and enjoy the sessions. We have a brilliant lineup today where we'll hear from top HR tech analyst Josh Bersin, internal communications and HR leaders at Verizon, at Bupa, Nesma and Partners, and the NHS, as well as leading influencers on internal communications and frontline worker engagement. Our customers call us the digital heart of their workplace, and we're really proud to be that for thousands of organizations globally. We are so excited for the future of Frontline and the opportunity to connect millions of frontline workers and give them an incredible employee experience. Thank you very much. Back to you at the studio, Barbara.
Thank you so much, John. What a way to kick us off. So great seeing you joining us from our global headquarters in Cork, Ireland. I think one of the many reasons why Workvivo has come so far since we were founded back in 2017 is that John knows it's not just about the platform or the process. It's about the people and making sure that they feel that sense of belonging that we know is so critical to a positive employee experience. As John said, even though each frontline organization and role might look a little different, the core needs remain the same: to stay connected, informed, and engaged. And I can see from the chat that John's opening remarks really resonated with a lot of you. So thanks again, John, for really setting the tone for the day. Now, next up, I have to admit, I'm kind of nerding out over this one. We are so excited to welcome one of the world's most respected voices in HR and the world of work, Josh Bersin, to the Frontline Summit. Josh is a globally renowned author, educator, and industry analyst who's been shaping how we think about work, talent, leadership, and culture for years. He's the founder of the Josh Bersin Academy and the the Josh Bersin Company and the Josh Bersin Academy. And today, he's going to set the stage for everything we're talking about here at the summit. He's here to unpack the real drivers behind the frontline employee experience, the research, the trends, the challenges, and most importantly, what we actually need to focus on to make a difference. Josh, we are so honored to have you with us. Thanks for being here. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to the Workvivo Frontline Worker Summit. I'd like to give you a little bit of perspective on the topic of employee experience for deskless or frontline workers. We've done a lot of research on this for many years, going back to before the pandemic, during the pandemic, post-pandemic. And it's a really important topic because if you look at the labor market, first of all, almost 80% of the American, at least, workforce is in some frontline non-desk role. And of course, that includes everything from manufacturing, transportation, healthcare, retail, hospitality, food service, many jobs where you're not sitting at a desk all day, but you're still an employee, you're still part of the company, you're still interacting directly with customers or patients or incoming clients, and your level of engagement or your level of skills or your level of enjoyment directly reflects on the customer experience, the patient experience, and the ability for your company to grow. And so what is this all about? So we've done, we built through a fairly massive research project, a very extensive employee experience framework with 24 different elements to it. I won't go through what they all are, but you can read about them, and we'll put them into the downloads here. And what you essentially find is that there's a variety of complex topics that impact the employee experience. And they basically fall into these 6 categories. The first is meaningful work itself. Do I like the work? Do I like the job? Do I like the customers? Do I like the product? If I'm a healthcare worker, do I enjoy taking care of people and improving people's lives? Do I get a kick out of serving customers in a coffee shop or a restaurant? Do I enjoy working with my hands if I'm a manufacturer, and so forth? And part of that is a sense of autonomy and agency and productivity. And so we need tools like Workvivo and others that make the work meaningful, because if the work is mundane or there's a lot of administrative bureaucracy to get it done, it's not very meaningful. The second category is management. Regardless of the level of empowerment you have in your job, there are managers, there are shift supervisors, there are leaders, there are executives, there are store managers, and they're looking at bigger issues than an individual's work. They're looking at the overall success of the team. And do they have a good relationship with you? Do you have a good relationship with them? Are they setting goals clearly? Are they getting coaching and support in their role? Are they being transparent with you about what's going on? Are they giving you coaching and feedback so you feel like you're being evaluated fairly? And frankly, do you have a good relationship with them? Because in an operational environment, your relationship with your manager is very much day to day. The third is the workplace. Do we have a workplace or company or team or store or office that recognizes people, that appreciates people, that takes care of people, that's flexible, that allows us to deal with childcare issues, that's inclusive, that's diverse? Those sort of environmental things are very big for the work experience. The fourth area is health and well-being. Is my job safe? Do I have safe tools? Can I stand up or move around or reach or lift or activities that I do? Are they things that I can do without hurting myself? Am I psychologically safe? Am I getting berated by customers or feedback by, patients? And does the company give me enough support for my family? And that might be benefits or leave for parent leave and other things like that. So that's the fourth category. The fifth category is growth. Does this job or this role or this shift or position, whatever you call it, take me somewhere? Even if I'm driving a truck as an Amazon delivery driver or driving an Uber or doing something fairly tactical, am I going to have to do this the rest of my life? Or is the company going to teach me some new things? Can I become a supervisor? Can I try new opportunities? Can I pivot to another career? Those are massively important drivers of employee experience. And the sixth is organizational trust. And that sounds like a very vague concept, but it's actually, in some sense, the most important of all. Most employees know that their company is not perfect. There are no perfect companies. There are no perfect people. And so when things are not going well, or there are problems or opportunities to improve, does the company and the leadership team listen? Do they communicate back to us clearly and transparently about what's going on, or are they lying to us? In fact, a very surprising finding in the Edelman Trust Barometer this year, is that something like 2/3 of employees believe the CEO is lying about the business, which is obviously a very bad trend. Does the company invest in people over time, or are we going to get laid off if something doesn't go well? And is the company taking care of the society, the environment, the communities we work in? Those are trust-related issues that in some sense form a foundation of energy and commitment that people make to their jobs. Those six things: meaningful work, management, positive workplace, health and well-being, growth opportunities, and trust, are really fundamental to the employee experience. Now, underneath that is the technology environment. And so tools like Workvivo, which are very, very extensive, productivity and development tools and communication tools, are very, very powerful in supporting all six of these things, because what gets in the way of a lot of these issues is bureaucracy, complexity, not knowing where to find something, not being able to learn something, not knowing the right procedure, not knowing what the company's policy is, not being able to figure out how to implement the company's policy. And a tool like Workvivo can have a massive impact on all of these areas. If you'd like to learn more, we will make sure you have some things to read about employee experience. This is a massively important part of every company that has any kind of frontline workforce, which basically is almost every company that I could think of. By the way, sales and service people who sit behind a desk have many of the same issues as those of you that don't have desks. And we believe, and I firmly believe, that in most companies, the experience and the motivation and the skills of the front line are directly correlated to the profitability and growth of the company. So even though it may feel that many of your workers in that role are maybe at a lower level hierarchically, your feedback, the data, the information that you capture, the experience you have, your ability to work with customers is very, very important to the CEO, the CFO, the shareholders, and the stakeholders of the entire company. Anyway, we're very excited to be working with Workvivo. I'm sure you're going to learn a lot at this whole summit, and we look forward to talking to any of you that would like to learn more about any of these topics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josh. I don't know about the audience, but I was just furiously taking notes during your talk. We appreciate you sharing your insights and are so grateful for your insider perspective. Josh mentioned, as part of building organizational trust, the importance of listening to your employees, which is why we knew we had to get out and give those frontline workers a voice with our Frontline Gap report. Our research shows nearly half of frontline workers don't know who their CEO is. Let that sink in for a minute. That's not just a stat, it's a gut punch. It's a signal that something is deeply broken in how we communicate, and particularly how we lead. And while some of these statistics might feel a little disheartening, we really want to be thinking about it as a call to action. Another area where we surveyed frontline workers was around recognition and appreciation. Now, we want to open this up for discussion and would love the audience's input today. So, what do you think? We're going to open up that poll. Do frontline employees feel as recognized or valued as their desk-based colleagues? Yes, no, I'm seeing some of these results come in. Maybe you're not sure. Okay. Yeah. And I think this is probably going to vary from organization to organization. You can still get your answers in. We're watching those results kind of pile in here. Yeah, we really want to hear from everyone. Yeah, I'm not surprised by this at all. Looking at the results, desk-based employees are getting more visibility. And the Gap report shows half of all frontline workers say their company cares more about office workers than them. That really ties back to the importance of the meaningful work driver. Do your frontline workers feel valued? Are they getting the recognition they deserve? Do they have the autonomy, agency, and tools they need to be successful? We've just started to unpack part of the challenges we're facing with the frontline, but we want to take a moment to show what bridging that gap looks like in action. Josh Bersin mentioned the criticality of underpinning those frontline experience drivers with the right technology. Because when nearly 2/3 of frontline workers say they're frustrated by the tools they've been given, and almost half feel like those tools weren't even designed for them, we've got work to do. Zoom recently launched Zoom Frontline, a powerful new app that brings the best of Zoom to frontline teams. It's built for in-shift communication and operations on shared devices with chat, video, push-to-talk, task and shift management, all in one smart AI-powered experience. It's a great solution for shift-based work, whether in retail, hospitality, or healthcare, and it's now part of our broader frontline portfolio. That same technology will power our Workvivo for Frontline features as we build the ultimate super app for the frontline. For companies ready to go beyond operations, it's a seamless path to the full Workvivo experience, all in one connected platform. So, let's get to know Workvivo for Frontline.
Every day, they show up. But do we show up for them? This is Workvivo, reimagined for the heart of our workforce, frontline workers. Access tools and integrations in one click with single sign-on. Everything in one place with your customizable operations hub. Keep teams in sync with real-time shift management tools. Chat to anyone, anytime, anywhere. Or video call for face-to-face connection. Transform the frontline experience with personalized employee journeys. Assign, manage, complete. Get answers fast with Workvivo AI. Surface critical knowledge instantly. Gain actionable insights to drive real change. Reach, engage, unify. Workvivo for the front line. Book a demo to find out more.
Wow. Big shout out to our incredible product team for that behind the scenes peek, just a glimpse of the magic they're working on every day to help people connect in smarter, more meaningful ways. And now, I could not be more excited to introduce two of my brilliant colleagues who are right at the heart of that magic, Jen Jordan and Joe Darrer. Jen is our global head of strategic customers. She partners with some of the world's leading organizations to bring their frontline engagement strategies to life. And Joe? He is our lead product manager who is actually just out visiting a Workvivo customer who also happens to be one of the largest employers in the world, speaking directly with their frontline employees to better understand their day-to-day experience. He's the driving force, turning the research, feedback, and insights into intuitive and practical tools that actually work where it matters the most, on the front line. These two have been instrumental in shaping the future of Frontline, which is why I am so excited for you to meet them. Jen, Joe, take it away.
So hi everyone, very excited to be here with Joe, who's going to take a quick dive with me into Workvivo for Frontline. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we're building, why it matters, and how it's designed for those frontline employees who really keep the world that we're in running day to day. So Joe, in case there's anyone watching who kind of joined out of sheer curiosity but doesn't really know what we're here to talk about today, can you give us a little bit of a flavor of what we mean by this kind of hot topic for Workvivo at the moment, Workvivo for Frontline?
Absolutely, Jen. So I hope you saw earlier on that snapshot we gave of like our frontline product roadmap. It's super exciting. So I'd encourage folks to go back and look at it. And that really gives you a sense of how we're prioritizing and focusing frontline. And for us, it's about going deeper on the core use cases and needs of frontline organizations. So for us, it's about solving the core 5 things that we see that are important for frontline: real-time communication, engagement, core tasks and workflows, and onboarding. And that really is the pillar of what we think is a frontline product. And for us, this isn't new, right? This is more about a doubling down. As a product team, we spent the last couple of months going to like Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom, America, Latin America, and really getting close to our customers and understand what they need. And what's like super impressive for us is like 75% of our customers serve frontline. So this is not new for us, which makes it really exciting.
Yeah, and that 75% number is such an absolute like whopper. Like it's so big for us. I know for strategic customer launches alone, kind of in the earlier part of this year and looking towards the rest of the year, we've got healthcare, retail workers, construction sites, people working on oil rigs, people in car dealerships. Yeah, you name it, we're covering it. So it really is, I suppose what's exciting is the potential impact we have here for really taking on that frontline employee experience. So can we talk about that experience a little bit more? Like we know for a lot of these workers, they don't have time to kind of dig for information, right? They're kind of trying to grab information maybe between shifts or between their frontline tasks. Can you tell us a little bit about how we've gotten inside the head of that persona when we're kind of designing this experience for the users?
100%. And like for us, it really comes down to the mobile design. Like it has to be designed to be mobile first, quick, simple, and easy to access. Like that's core for the experience. And that's really why we're doubling down in this space. And it not only stops there, like if you think about it from, if you're a frontline worker, you could be sitting at a desk, you could be in the warehouse, or you could be a front-end worker. It doesn't matter. It's the same app, but we're able to personalize it to whatever your role is or whatever your team is or whatever your experience is. And that's how we've approached the design philosophy.
Perfect. And I know we've added in lots of features as well, right? In terms of kind of thinking about that persona, how to interact with them. We have chat, we have the voice call kit, we have Workvivo TV. I know live streaming has been a huge one that we're adding in as well, which is really exciting.
Absolutely. And that's about meeting the employee where they are, right? So like we think about the product as that opportunity, that platform to really meet that frontline employee. So as you say, whether it's a digital signage or whether it's on the go, that's really what the platform's there for.
Perfect. So I know when we're thinking about Workvivo historically, we've always thought about it in kind of 3 core pillars, right? Obviously, it's all underpinned by the analytics piece, but the communication piece, which is obviously back to some of those features we've just mentioned, then the digital workplace or that work hub, which is kind of that quick access to information that we were discussing. And then that third piece is really around the engagement piece. So how are we actually engaging these frontline workers? And that's something that I think has been missing, maybe particularly from that frontline employee experience up to now. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Like, how are we focusing on that engagement piece, particularly for this area of the workforce?
Absolutely. So like last year, we launched Employee Insights. That was the first built into an employee experience platform, employee listening. But we've gone further. We've added AI sentiment. So we think of this as like a continuous learning experience for admins or leaders in an organization. It's not about sending that one email to get a pulse check on employee sentiment. It's built core into the platform. And that's where we're leveraging AI, right? AI is able to summarize, give you insights, and maybe even recommend actions that you can take. And that's really been the evolution for us in terms of the platform.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned AI there, so do we need to double down any more on that? I know it's a hot topic for everybody. If I didn't ask the question here, it'd be probably flooding the chat and the questions for the rest of the sessions today. I use it every single day. I know it's becoming kind of part of the norm for everybody. How much have we thought about that in kind of the bigger picture of this frontline experience looking into the future?
Absolutely. For me, I almost like sense that AI is a big of a change to the internet platform as mobile was, if not bigger, right? So we think about it from that size and that size of impact. And for us, as I mentioned earlier on, we're leveraging AI in sentiment and employee insights and about summarizing and help create content. But the real focus for us this year is employee knowledge and search, and we're going to power that with AI. So if you think about a frontline worker, they're often challenged about how to find information, who to ask, or where to go to get information. AI is such a level set for us, and for that employee, they're essentially have that digital assistant in their pocket. And for us, that's the real game changer. And that's our priority for this year. And I'm really excited about that.
Very cool. Yeah, that idea of just being able to like ask Workvivo anything kind of idea would be such an unlock for a lot of those frontline employees. So a massive, massive opportunity there. I know this is something I could talk to you about all day long because both of us are really passionate about it. So obviously I'm a little bit biased, but I think just the impact that we have here in terms of really affecting that employee experience for frontline is really, really exciting. And hopefully everybody else watching feels the same. For now, I think it's time to probably hand back to Barbara, but thank you so much, Joe, for taking the time. I hope all of you watching enjoyed the session. And back to you, Barbara, now. Very excited to see the sessions that we have lined up for the rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Jen and Joe, who are also joining us today from our Cork HQ. I always get so much energy learning about the product roadmap and hearing what's next for Workvivo. It sounds like easy to use, personalized, mobile-first design backed by powerful AI technology is the focus, and it has so much potential for a huge impact on the frontline experience. And I love how we're actually taking the time to understand the experience and listen to our customers versus just going off and building something that misses the mark. I'm sure many of you in the audience can relate to this. 70% of frontline workers still rely on personal messaging apps to stay connected. Yes, that's right. We all know about those group chats happening on WhatsApp. That's why it's so important we're building a mobile-first tool that has next-level chat, video, and voice experience that employees can easily use as part of their day-to-day. Jen, Joe, the work you're doing on Workvivo for Frontline is so impressive, so thank you again for sharing. And now we're going to flash up just a quick poll. If you're interested in learning more about Workvivo for Frontline, just hit yes, and we're going to get in touch with you. All right. We've covered the big ideas, the research, the technology, and now it's time to hear from the people living it every single day and do a deeper dive into their company cultures. One stat from the Frontline Gap report that John Goulding referenced earlier really stuck with me. A staggering 87% of frontline workers aren't sure their company culture even includes them. It's time we build cultures where everyone feels included, valued, whether they're working in a retail store, at a construction site, or at a hospital. And our next customer panelists are doing just that. We are thrilled to welcome our first panel of speakers for the summit, true industry leaders who are bridging the frontline gap across languages, locations, and time zones. That's no small feat. And they're leading the way with purpose, measurable impact, and frontline engagement results that speak for themselves. And leading this conversation is none other than my colleague and a former Workvivo customer himself, Eddie McSweeney. Eddie brings a one-of-a-kind perspective to internal comms with a career that's taken him from the Irish Defence Forces to the world of employee experience and corporate comms. He knows what it means to lead from the front, stay cool under pressure, and deliver a message with precision. Eddie, over to you to introduce today's stellar panel of Workvivo customers, the NHS, Verizon, and Nesma and Partners. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Barbara, and you're all very welcome to the Q&A section of the Frontline Summit, hosted by me, Eddie McSweeney, your internal communications and engagement consultant with Workvivo, former Irish Defence Forces internal communications officer for approximately about 5 years, and I've now moved into my new role with Workvivo. So I have a dual perspective when it comes to both delivering internal communications on the front line and now helping assist it from behind the scenes as well. So I'm going to do a quick introduction to our panel first and foremost, then we're going to get into our questions, and then we'll wrap up with some nice takeaways for everybody in the audience. So without further ado, we're going to start with Salam from Nesma and Partners. Salam, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your position, your company, and some of your communications challenges and obstacles at this current time.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Salam Al-Jishi. I'm the Director of Corporate Communications and CSR at Nesma and Partners Contracting Company. It's a company based in Saudi Arabia, and we operate on projects on 3 business lines: energy sector, infrastructure, and building constructions. Our projects mainly are giga projects in Saudi Arabia in multiple locations. We handle giga projects, and we are B2B with major clients. Thank you for having me here today.
Excellent, and thank you so much for joining us. Really looking forward to look into some of the difficulties, complexities that are set out with the construction industry, harsh conditions, harsh environment, and how you motivate your staff and communicate from your strategic level to your operational, to your tactical. So really looking forward to getting into that. Next up, we have from Verizon, David, if you could please introduce yourself a little bit about your position and some of your communications complexities as well.
All right, thank you. David Cutler here from Verizon. I'm in channel marketing and communications. I have about 18 years here with Verizon, with the last 5 or so have been focused here in the channel marketing and communications area. So here at Verizon, we are a telecommunications company where we power and empower how our customers live, work, and play. So my focus in particular is on communication strategy within our retail environment, with a focus on sales enablement content. So what that means is we're able to identify what our employees need on a daily basis in order to provide excellent service to their customers. And we give them those tips, information, and everything they need in order to provide that excellent service. So happy to be here today. A few of the challenges that we have, Eddie, that we're highly focused on in this dynamic environment. Number one is really meeting our employees where they are. The personalization aspect, and also, again, in this dynamic environment, that speed to market that we provide to them. So looking forward to telling you guys a bit more about that today.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, David. It's an absolute pleasure to have you as well. And last but certainly not least, we have Niall from NHS, who's going to cover the other industry that is outrageously on the front line, not just every day, week, but every minute counts in his industry. So Niall, a little bit about yourself, your position, and the industry that you come from, as we've covered 3 extremely dynamic areas already, between the military, the construction industry, the telecommunications, and now we have the emergency services.
Thanks, Eddie. So I'm Niall Norbury. I'm the Campaigns and Marketing Manager at Royal Berkshire NHS Foundation Trust. So we are an acute trust that provides services for about 1 million people across Berkshire. We have about 6,000 plus staff and volunteers who work in about 6 or 7 different locations around the kind of Berkshire area. So for us, I think our key challenges we have in terms of kind of internal communications is kind of, as you mentioned, we've got very fast-paced environment for many people work in, but we've also got a big variety of different roles. So the needs for internal communications of a doctor who is, fairly challenged in terms of time and digital capabilities can be different to an administrator or admin kind of role, similar to a housekeeper. So for us, it's how do we build an internal communications approach that works for all of our different staff and volunteers.
Fantastic. Really looking forward to getting into that as well, because not only are you operating at the cutting edge, you also have the entire logistics support element as well behind you as well, which also needs to be communicated with. So that's extremely interesting for us as well. Our first question will be for Salam and Nesma Partners, which we really want to get into some of the further communications complexities when you're dealing with a vast site or vast locations, and how do you move information from your strategic level to your people on the ground?
I worked in the healthcare like Niall before, and then I moved to the construction industry. And one of the first things that I noticed is really the high percentage of frontliners versus desk-based employees in the construction industry. Furthermore, majority of these frontliners are laborers. So I had many communication barriers, including like language barriers. Many laborers, they come from different countries from around the world. They operate in different sites and locations, construction sites. Most laborers, they don't have access to the email. We have the engineers, the project managers, the project directors, they have some access to the emails, but the laborers, they have no access to the emails. So there was no way for us to engage with them, to reach out to them, whether for compliance or to make them feel as part of the company. So we were thinking really like how can we enhance the internal communication and reach out and establish a solid channel that we could reach to these difficult segments. And in today's world, like we thought everyone has a mobile, so really having a mobile-based platform really helped us to reach out to this difficult segment. One of the key challenges we faced also in the rollout, for example, of Workvivo was that these employees, because we don't have channel prior to Workvivo, there is no way to communicate Workvivo to these employees. So we had to do face-to-face campaigns through our HR coordinators located in different sites to inform our workers about Workvivo and the availability of Workvivo for them to utilize as an internal communication channel. We also had no predictions about the behavior of these employees. I didn't have any reference point. So in the beginning, some of the employees, they flooded the feed with like selfies and irrelevant posts, and we couldn't control the comments. So we tried to also customize the spaces to cater for the different needs and the different interests of different categories and groups of our employees. Previously, before launching Workvivo, as I said, all what we had is like face-to-face. Sometimes we print posters and put them online, or like we rely on the word of mouth from like managers to their employees down to the workers. Mostly these were most of the challenges we faced. In addition, after launching Workvivo, we still have like hard time in engaging our leadership to remain on the portal and to really engage. We think that with these leaders being on the portal, if they come more often, we will see more engagement from all segments of our employees on the platform. And we are yet to launch many campaigns to try to engage the leadership to remain on the platform as well.
Absolutely. No, there's some fantastic internal comms boxes that you've ticked there along your journey, and I can definitely resonate with them as well, especially when it comes to the roadshow that you've gone on. And I had to do exactly the same thing because there was zero digital touch point with anybody in the military. So this had to be a fact finding. It also had to come from the ground up that they wanted it. It couldn't just be a top down, this is the tool that you need to solve your problems. It had to come from the people themselves, and they wanted to solve their own problems. And this is the fastest and most effective way of doing that. I also learned more about the military in that 10 weeks roadshow than I did in my 10 years there. So there's nothing better than the effective face-to-face interview with people. They'll tell you exactly what's going on, what's wrong, and how you're supposed to fix it for them. So well done for both collecting all your information, getting all of your ducks in a row, putting your plan in place, and launching Workvivo. That's absolutely incredible and well done. My second question is actually going to be to David and Verizon. As we're talking about scale, it doesn't get any bigger than Verizon, and it really leads us on to not just the amount of people you have, but the amount of locations as well, and then the amount of information that your frontline workforce also have to both have at their fingertips, and the amount of questions that's going to be asked, and how do they further their career. There's a million and one things that I'm sure that you're trying to tackle at one time, but we'll just try and narrow it down to a few for this session. But Niall, how would you implement your speed and accuracy for your communications to enable your frontline workforce to produce the goods for you on the front line?
Yeah, so when it comes to Verizon, and specifically talking about the sales enablement here in our retail environment, you're right. We have locations, thousands of stores located throughout the U.S. And it's different stores, it's different titles, it's different geographies, And we have support staff, we have frontline, we have leadership, and it's very, very important to be able to get the right message for each of them. So what we need to do is it was very important that we set up an infrastructure here that was able to do it, so that we're able to have our titles isolated, our geographies isolated, in order to provide them the specific message that they need, the actions that they need to take in order to execute on a daily basis. What that also helps us do is it also helps us to eliminate some of that noise that they don't need. So we don't want to have to communicate to them a bunch of things that are not relevant to them. We want to be able to provide them the exact information that they need. So we're able to set up the different spaces with the different categories that I mentioned in order to do that. What this enables us to do is be very, very fast, act with urgency, and not just from a frontline side, but from an operations communication support side as well. You'll hear me talk a lot about how dynamic we are over here in Verizon. We move very fast. You know, we need to provide that information to our frontline employees very fast so that they know what to do. So that is something we're hyper focused on a daily basis, disseminating to the right audience, getting it out there fast, and doing it with urgency.
100%. And you've hit on, again, another few key aspects of frontline communications in terms of accuracy, access to that information at a 24/7 basis, 365, and also that it has to be timely. Like, if you're not first, you are last. The famous quote that is, and there's nothing that is more true than that being on when you're running operations as large as yours, but it's also as applicable to the NHS as well, and Island Emergency Services, because there's sometimes what we used to say in the military is a delayed message is as bad as the message that never got sent, because anything that is out of date is absolutely useless to you, because you are dealing with that issue and that problem in the moment, in that second. You're making split-second decisions, and I'm sure that your leadership, Niall, they will also want to get information as fast as possible and as accurate as possible to your staff and your supporting staff as well. And how would your leadership then show up on your platform on a daily and weekly basis?
Yeah, so I think anyone who knows the NHS knows that a lot of it runs on the goodwill of our staff and them kind of going above and beyond. So having leadership which is really proactive, visible, and staff feel really connected to is really vital to be able to kind of push out either challenges or positive messages. So we're really lucky at the Trust that we do have leadership who are really engaged in general. So prior to Workvivo, and we still do it now, our exec would do regular going out, spending time with different teams. Our CEO does a weekly vlog, we do a blog, we do all staff webinars, all those kind of aspects as well. So we're doing lots of kind of leadership communications. What kind of changed with us, particularly with Workvivo, was before, a lot of communications would go out anonymously. So you might make a big announcement or you might make some big change and it would just go out via communications at so-and-so organization or that kind of thing. What's changed now with Workvivo is we can attribute that to a person. So it might be a really positive bit of announcement that our chief medical officer can put out, or it might be some kind of more challenging financial news. I think having that comms be attached to a specific individual rather than hiding behind this kind of anonymous post really builds up that trust perspective, because you get staff who can now communicate and directly know, okay, this is the exec who's responsible for this, but also just understand where things sit within the organization. So that's been the kind of big real change for us, is having posts go from being very anonymous at times beyond those vlogs and blogs to now, if there's a post, there's going to be a person who has to put their name to it, put their signature to it in a certain sense, and stand by what's said in it, which means it has to be accurate, it has to be fast, and it has to be relevant to people.
And more gold stars to be handed out over here as well. Leadership Engagement 101. If you're doing a weekly vlog as part of your leader engagement strategy, that is absolutely incredible. That's something that some industries and some companies can only dream of. And again, it doesn't have to be the Hollywood style produced videos. I'm sure that your CEOs also, it can be quick, it can be fast. It's on potentially on their phone, or even at their desk, or even on the way to another meeting, that you need to get critical comms out to people as fast as possible. No better way of doing that than in a crisis as well. I'm sure you've faced a number of crises probably on a daily basis. Is there anyone that stands out where Workvivo has helped you bridge a communication gap that you couldn't fill any other way?
Yes, so last year we had an issue, and it's a bit ironic because it's one that's happening right now, but we had a thunderstorm here in Reading where the hospital was struck by lightning, and that took out a whole bunch of our systems essentially. The real value we had of Workvivo was particularly the app, which hopefully other people in here have also found for their staff, is before we would send out an email which only reached a certain amount of people. But now with the app, we can send out instant communications to people. So it meant we could cascade information out really quickly. But also, more importantly, we use Workvivo as a way of storing a lot of our documents, our files, connections to our applications. So before, when other systems in the hospital kind of went down, because Workvivo was a kind of external platform, people could still access documents and get on with their jobs. There was still disruption, but it meant that was much more significantly reduced. And it's only encouraged us to kind of go further with that. So we're really encouraging many staff as possible to get the app on their phones, because it means they can access things in that kind of emergency. And there's a lot of customization. So some people go, I actually don't want to connect too much out of the work, outside of working hours. That's completely fine. People can turn off notifications and only get those alerts in those really critical moments. So for us, it's been really helpful in those thankfully rare situations where we've had to deal with a bit more of a kind of operational crisis.
Incredible story, absolutely incredible. And that's the beauty, I feel, with Workvivo as an internal comms officer, that you were able to set it up in the way that suited your industry and the way that people wanted to work on the front line. So if they wanted to have that instant connection with their leaders, they could do it. You could create a space for it. They could ask them anything and they could get back to them instantly. Or the leaders would go onto a live stream and be able to just amplify that message straight from the horse's mouth. Or like what you have done is set up every single tool, resource and document you'd need once you step away from the desk. Your desk is now in your pocket and it's instantly accessible at all times. So again, 4 or 5 gold stars going out there to Niall as well. So as well as all of these industry nuggets that we're sending out here to everybody today, we're going to look for a little bit of advice as well from the panel. I'll come back to Salam now to see if you have any advice for maybe your previous self or somebody who's starting a journey in terms of being an internal comms officer, or even to leadership. How should they show up on Workvivo or to your internal staff generally?
If I look at my previous self, the person who launched Workvivo like 1.5 years ago, I would really give her an advice to not to really try so hard to get it like 100% ready. Just be as much as ready as you can, and then just launch it. And don't be afraid of exploring, looking at the reactions, getting sentiment from the audience, and then adjusting accordingly. You will never be 100% ready or 100% satisfied with the content that you have thus far. I remember that when we tried to launch Workvivo, I went back to like 1 year of content and highlights and used to put them on the platform to be ready. And now I see that maybe I pushed it so hard, maybe nobody will read all of that. Maybe like 6 months, 3 months would be more enough. And then also we still had to make lots of adjustments in the first 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the reactions of the audience. As I mentioned previously, we couldn't really predict how our frontliner will react. We had to do modifications to their access, to the spaces, to change some of the spaces' names and interests, just to have everyone engaged on the platform as they should be.
Absolutely fantastic. I'll reveal a little secret that we in the military, although we are sticklers for timings and delivering, we also delayed. We delayed by 3 months as well because we wanted to launch and be perfect as well. And guess what? When we came to that 3 months finish line again, we wanted to delay again because we weren't quite there. So I totally get what you're saying, and we wanted to build out exactly what you're doing, a nice content library to be, fully functional for when people came in. The environment felt alive. It felt like we've been living in there for the last couple of weeks, maybe not 52 weeks like what you've did, which is an incredible amount of work, but that's exactly what internal comms officer should be doing, is making a platform feel alive, even if it's only been alive for 12 or 16 weeks. So well done, and you're going to see the rewards of that for the future in terms of activation and engagement, because that bank of content now is always there, and people will look back, believe me, they definitely will. We did
We are
exactly the
using
same
it
for
as an archive. We go back and look for like all things that we publish about, and you can find it there at least.
Absolutely. We did the same for our magazine, that we uploaded all of our previous years and years of our internal comms magazine, that people love the paper based and reading about themselves and their friends and their parents and whoever else who had served with them. So yeah, people, they will find it, and they'll definitely consume it. So yeah, well done. Thank you, Slam.
Thank you, Eddie.
David, I'm
Yes,
going to come to
definitely.
you next as a bit of advice to everybody in the audience if they were to start the journey, what to not be afraid of, and to get stuck in and their hands dirty.
Well, where do I start? But
Yeah, I know.
the one thing I'd really like to point out is feedback along the way. Look, Salam mentioned it; it'll never be perfect. It's definitely a work in progress, but really relying on your feedback groups along the way. So whether it's something super formal, a live group of a focus group that you could have to ask specific questions, or whether it's a group of champions or super users that you could simply tap on the shoulder and ask them a question. Having those streams set up is critical. So we use it quite often. We use it for ongoing feedback related to the content strategy, and we use it for business decisions as well here. So one of the things that we did, when we introduced Workvivo, we had an opportunity. Our employees are highly passionate about what they wear to work, where we were able to put out a poll and give some choices on what piece of attire would we like to add to the uniform collection over here in retail, right? So the employees made their voice heard, and we were able to fulfill that with a wildly popular attire choice. So it's always a great moment when you're able to take that feedback and provide the specific memorable moment that people remember. Oh, I did give my voice for this. We had thousands of participants in that poll, and it was a really great moment. So that was one of the bigger ones. But again, whether it's just tapping our trusted users and our super users on the shoulder for some very quick feedback, we have all these different streams set up, and I would highly recommend that everybody does something similar in nature to that as well.
Fantastic advice. And we did something similar in the Irish Defence Forces, where we set up a private space where we test some of the key messaging from leadership first as a bit of a litmus test to see if it would go down like a lead balloon, and to see what comments would come in, and to see if we actually had to change the messaging, or if we had missed a trick before that went live to everybody in the audience. So we weren't completely learning by just posting and praying. We were actually testing it first, adjusting, and then getting that out to the masses. So yeah, well done for that. And that's incredible numbers to have on any polls and surveys as well coming in. As well as the surveys, we also ran one that was based solely around the content that people were seeing, wanted to see, and wanted to review as well. So we took everybody's advice, and that actually helped us build out our content calendar for the previous year. So we were able to put in place a few teams to look at maybe podcasts or another episode, or an entire season based around either training or enablement or further career progression. So again, that's perfect advice. Be a sponge, get all that information in, and then you can reallocate it out to where it needs to be to deliver back to the people in the style that they want to be delivered back to them as well. Niall, and when it comes down to, again, saving lives on a daily basis, like, what further advice could you guys give in terms of medical emergency services within internal communications?
I mean, the key thing advice I'd kind of give around internal communications is, I think often there can be a focus on how do we get messages out to people, but not the opposite. So actually, it's how do we get the frontline people to be able to kind of report back to us, if that makes sense. So we, particularly find this in NHS, that it's the doctors and the nurses and the healthcare assistants all on the front lines who are often the first people to notice that there may be an issue or a really good idea that needs sharing. So for me, I think it's for internal communications, don't just think about it from, okay, how do we at the top cascade information down, but what are the ways we can make sure people are feeding back to us, essentially. So that's the kind of key bit I'd say, is don't always think of internal communications as one-way channel. Is actually, it's that kind of two-way aspect, because it can really make a difference and build that really kind of positive culture to work in.
That actually ties us off there. Really, really lovely. And I'll just finish with some closing words. First of all, I want to thank Salam, David, and Niall for their time, their expertise, for all the painstaking hard work you've done for the last while. But I hope that you'll see that short-term pain will turn into long-term gain. And that's some of the misconceptions that people always have when it comes to either implementing a new tool, a new resource, that, oh no, this is another job. Oh no, this is more work for me. It's actually not. In the short term, yes, it is. But in the long term, now you've given everybody that ability to get that information, to find that information, or to find that person they were looking for at the touch of a button, and whether that be at their desk or whether that be on the front line. So you can see, if you're surrounded by the right tools and the right team, you can achieve anything that you want on the front line, especially deliver in terms of global operations, building, saving lives, and delivering on the front line for your daily operations that you've seen from this team here today. So once again, thank you all, and we'll be handing back to Barbara in the studio. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining us online, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks for handing it back, Eddie. Thank you to our panelists. I've actually had the pleasure of meeting some of our panelists at some of our memorable Workvivo customer events, and I absolutely loved hearing more today about their journeys. What stood out for me was the importance of real-time communication, audience targeting, and personalization. And hearing how they've set their teams up for success by eliminating that noise so they can focus on their customers, their patients, and their job sites. I also love the emphasis on not just the top-down communications, but opening up channels for feedback, for polls, whether it's on content the comms team has created, or maybe selecting uniforms like they did over at Verizon. You can really empower and engage your frontline by providing the right tool where they have a voice. And like Salam said, you're never going to be 100% ready to launch a new tool, and sometimes you need to just take that leap and be open to evolving. So thank you again to Niall, Dave, and Salam for sharing your stories today. I hope you're getting some great takeaways from today's summit. We've got 2 more sessions to go. And just a quick reminder, before we dive into our next session, our giveaway is still running, so you have that chance to win a Visa gift card. Follow us on Workvivo on LinkedIn, post a photo from your, and include a little bit of your favorite takeaway from any session today, and just don't forget to tag us. All right. Next up, we have another phenomenal panel in store. But before we do that, we want to hear from the audience again. Give us one word to describe what it's like to reach the front line in the chat. I know just one word is probably going to be tough. So just pop that right in the chat. Okay. Hard, difficult, frustrating. Yeah. These responses are really clearly reflective of the frontline gap that we've been talking about, right? So keep those responses coming in. We want to keep the conversation going. Next up, we're going to hear from some of the biggest voices in HR, internal comms, and employee experience. This group is packed with real insights, lived experiences, and hot takes on how to truly connect with the frontline. Hosting this panel is a multi-award-winning consultant and the founder of The Curious Route. She was an outstanding guest of mine on the first episode of The Comm Show that we had so much fun doing together. My friend, Joanna Parsons. Joanna is going to be leading the conversation with Stephanie Roberts, Chief Communications Officer at Hitachi Industrial Equipment Systems, Chris Lee, VP of Employee Communication and Experience at Gallagher, and Kit Campoy, a retail leadership and tech expert and author. Joanna, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. Let's dive into this discussion, all things about frontline communications. Now, Stephanie, I'm going to come to you first, if you don't mind. One of the key challenges we always hear about time and time again is the issue of reaching frontline workers. People find the reach very difficult. Why do you think this is so hard, and why does this challenge still persist?
Well, Joanna, that's a great question. I think it is a huge challenge, and all of us on this panel probably get questions about this all the time. And, I understand why, working in manufacturing, and, a third of our employees are on the front lines. So why is it hard, and, why does this persist? I think there's really a few key reasons. The first one being, the access isn't equal to channels. Of course, the frontline workers, they don't have the email, they don't have the laptops, they don't have the company cell phones. So that immediately impacts or limits how we can reach them. And then on top of that, there's privacy and security concerns we have to consider as well. If we try to use their personal devices, that's where employment laws come into play, and union agreements and things like that. So I think that's one issue that all of us face. I think the second part is a lot of companies are really still clinging to outdated communications methods, especially for factory floors or in the field. Their version of communications is still a memo on the fridge or a poster on the wall or, like a coffee stained paper on a tack board, something like that. And that's very passive, it's very static. And frankly, the employees, they're not looking at it. So while these employees, in their day-to-day life, they're so used to these digital tools and using their phone to order food or, check directions, everything. But we haven't caught up to that in the workplace. So we're not really keeping up with how the employees are operating outside of work, even though these digital tools are readily available everywhere. But it's not just about the tool, right? You can have the snazziest internet or the greatest app, but you still need that strategy, and you still need to really convey to your employees what's in it for them to actually use these tools.
And it does explain, doesn't it, why our job is so hard, because it isn't just about bringing in an app and that will fix everything, but there's a whole strategy and influence and changing the culture of how we communicate here. Okay, so let me come to you next, because you're a little bit different. You're not an internal communications practitioner, but you have so much experience working with frontline workers. And something that I've heard you say before is that, like, there is an issue around information overload or communication to the frontline not being streamlined. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I ran retail stores for 20 years, and when you're on the floor of a retail store, there's just communication coming from everywhere. So you're getting emails, you're getting text messages, there's an activities calendar, there's, probably an app that your company wants you to use. And there's just so many different places where you need to check for information, where you need to check for communication. And so when I would come in the morning, I would check all of these different channels, create a list for myself for the day, and then I'm on the floor, so I'm not at a desk, I'm not checking messages all the time. I'm, interacting with employees and customers. So I think it's just really just so many channels. I think if companies can focus on maybe two would be a dream. Focus on these two places, and that's where you're going to get the information you need, rather than checking 4, 5, 6. And to Stephanie's point, there's posters on the wall, there's a note on the fridge, there's sticky notes. Like, it's everywhere, and it's overwhelming. It can be really overwhelming.
And it's difficult, isn't it? Because when you're on the front line, you have all these apps and tools and channels you're expected to use, but they're not just all created by one team. It's not just like the comms team made this. You have HR making their portal, and IT have something else. So it's a big, broader, meatier problem to solve, isn't it? About how do we just make this easier for people to get the information they need to just do their job? That's what we're paying them for.
100%.
Amazing. Chris, let's come to you. Now, sometimes we talk about being employee-centric in frontline comms, and we really want to put our employees first, but you actually don't love this term. You're the first person I've heard kind of complaining about this term a little bit. Talk me through what you mean about that and why it matters.
Yeah, no, and I realize it's a bit of a hot take, Joanna, and it's not so much that I take issue with the term employee-centric, so much as I do think there's really a chance to remember that we're more than just employees, right? So much of what we do need to communicate to the front line, this is communication that does need to be consumed at times, like Stephanie was saying, that's during their breaks or before or after shifts, or, through passive environments that we're talking about, like that nightmare of the bulletin board that usually is a feature of a lot of break rooms and digital signage and things like that. And when you think about, what people want to think about and talk about during their lunch hour, a lot of times it's not about work-related things or things that are related to their roles as employees. We're talking to more than just a title, and we also, to Kit's point, we have a lot to communicate to employees. And a lot of it by nature is, not that interesting, but it's important for them to know and understand. So I think that the experience can be a lot more resonant if we balance the idea, Joanna, of being employee centric, but also shaping something that feels a little bit more human centric to give ourselves a better chance to really draw people into our communications and give our messaging a fighting chance.
Yeah, I love that. And I like the way that you talk on your podcast about employees are not just resources, like they're whole human people. Like, when did we forget that? Why do we force ourselves to communicate in these very stiff ways? Like, we're all human people. Stephanie, let me come back to you. I think, like, when people join these types of webinars and calls, they're really looking for practical advice, more than just inspiration, but like tips they can take back to their own job, real life examples of things that you might have done or ideas that they can take away. What advice would you share? Maybe anything to do with improving the line manager cascade, because that's still a very popular channel for frontline communication, frontline workers.
Yeah, Joanna, I think you're exactly right. And we often see that in the research too. Most of the frontline workers, they are highly dependent on their direct manager. So that's who they hear from and see the most often, right? I think there's usually two problems associated. First, and I think Chris was touching on it specifically, but line managers, they don't have time often. So like, Chris was talking about during the breaks. They don't really want to hear about communications things during the breaks. So I think at the company level, there needs to be an understanding of having dedicated time, even if it's 15 minutes a week during a toolbox talk or a team huddle or something like that. It can go a long way for communications, but it really needs to be part of the routine and kind of supported from the top. So I think that's one thing. And the other thing, we really have to, be cognizant of the content we're giving these line managers. I know in my career, I've seen many times where, managers are handed a 40-page PowerPoint or like an inch thick document, and they're just expected, well, please just communicate it, but that's not really realistic. So we as the communicators, we need to set them up to succeed. So, one idea could be creating kind of short, like to the point briefing documents, maybe once per week or once every other week, whatever your team allows, kind of summarizing what are the key events that happen that week, why it matters, and really equipping those line managers of what they should be telling their teams. Or if there is, a town hall, but they can't stop the production lines, right? But what are the 3 to 5 key takeaways that the employees really need to know? So whether it's kind of those talking points or templates, however we can help set up these managers to succeed. We don't want them necessarily just cascading information and hoping for the best, right? We really want to equip them and empower them to communicate well.
I love that, because I think sometimes like being a manager is so hard because you have all this expectations coming from above you, and then you have the team below you looking for advice and guidance. So we're not really doing them any favors if we're giving them 40 pages of jargon that they don't understand. So I really like your practical advice of like, here's what you need to know, here's what we would like you to tell your team, or here's what we would like you to do and to support them. And I wonder, Kit, like, as somebody who's worked so closely with frontline workers for such a long time, Like, how can we better put ourselves into the shoes of frontline workers to design a communications experience, not necessarily from our perspective, from their perspective, to make it better for them?
Well, I think conversations like this are an excellent start. And I'm seeing more and more of it, which is really fantastic. I think even, 5 years ago, it was just kind of communication was just top down, right? Just kind of like do what we tell you and tell your teams XYZ. So more communication like this and listen to them. If you can create a feedback loop where you hear from the frontline teams regularly, so it's not out of the norm. When you get a survey like 4 times a year, right? Like once a quarter, we don't know what you do with that information. We have no idea. We don't ever get any feedback like this was a good idea, this worked. We have no idea. We're too busy. So if you can make it kind of a daily or weekly process. And the only other thing I would say is just get out, like go shopping, go to, just be like observe people in stores, observe people on the front line and just kind of see what their day looks like. Kind of observe the organized chaos that is frontline work, because there is a flow to it and there is a rhythm to it. So the more you're familiar with the work, then you can kind of structure your communication to best fit what they need.
I love that. And it's often kind of the opposite what we do. We think about the channels that we have and the messages we want to send, and we forget about, like, people are just trying to do a job. You remind me of, like, years ago, I was head of internal comms with the Irish police. And when I joined, I just went and I visited a load of police stations around Ireland, and I was just there. I was just watching people and observing how things went. And people were telling me, oh, the notice boards in the police stations, they're a brilliant communications channel. Make sure you use them. And I have this very vivid memory of sitting in a canteen and just watching people come in and out past this heaving notice board full of stuff. Nobody even glanced at it. And when I went over, like, all the content was out of date. The stuff was yellow and like thick layers of paper. And I wouldn't have known that if I had stayed in headquarters and taken someone's advice. I could be sending out loads of paper on the notice boards, but sure, that's not what people needed. It's not useful to people. So I really like that. I wonder, Chris, we're talking a bit about kind of channels here and reach and the experience. I wonder, should we talk about content as well? Because maybe you've got your reach great and all your channels are brilliant, but like your content has to be great as well. So have you any thoughts on like the type of content what should we be thinking about for content when we think about frontline workers?
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in the idea that really compelling and truly engaging content that resonates will perform well regardless of the channel. And it's about us really thinking about how does our content speak to people's actual lives on the front line. Really, if it doesn't, there's a good chance that our communications are going to end up in the I'll read it later pile, which really means I'll read it never, is what invariably happens. So a lot of the times we focus on what we want to say and not as much indexing on what do employees actually want to hear about and read about. So instead of, the headline being, don't forget to enroll in your health benefits by June 1st, just subtle tweaks about, here's a 5-minute guide to making sure that your family's well-being is effectively covered this year, and finding those right notes that connects with them. And, I loved what, Kit was saying about, the ability to democratize communications, because as we know, the employee voice is more likely to be heard than corporate communications. And we try so hard in corporate communications to be authentic in our copy, but there's really nothing more authentic than what you hear about at the water cooler. So moving away from top-down policy announcements and finding different ways to engage employees to be part of the story. And so what are those opportunities to humanize the content, make it more reflective of what people actually consume in our own time, like we've been talking about. And it's honestly, it's really only in internal communications that we use this term, quote unquote, consumer grade. And that makes me sad, because it's a tell that we're so far behind in employee communications, that we're striving for not even the best in class consumer brands. We're just trying to fight to get to just consumer grade. And that's not I don't think that's a high enough bar. I think we should avoid striving for best in class, and actually try to focus more on game changing and thinking really thoughtfully about that actual employee experience.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, I see still there's so many organizations that are sending out an employee newsletter that they've made in a PDF, and then it's attached to an email, and the images are all stretched out and the headlines are terrible. And the idea is, oh, it's only for employees, it's fine. And I always challenge with, would you ever send that to your customers? Like, never in a million years. So I think you're right. There's quite a gap there that we are far behind. Stephanie, I'd love to come back to something we kind of touched on earlier, where we talked about maybe some companies are still in that like tell mode where we broadcast something, they listen. It's all very one way, it's all very passive. What advice would you give to someone who might be watching this, who is in a bit of an old school company? They've always communicated with memos, stuff on the notice board, just send stuff out. How would you encourage them to make the case to their leaders that maybe we need to modernize this, maybe we can improve this, it's time for change?
Well, I think maybe part of it is getting some of those real voices from the field. So as we were talking about earlier, you know, stepping out of headquarters, talking to the frontline employees, getting their true thoughts and conveying that. And then, you know, kind of just tying that to any kind of metrics. I know measurement is always the elephant in the room, if you will, for many of us. But tying that to how that, you know, can help engagement or other criteria, and then try to sell that to the executives within the company. But I think first and foremost, getting those real voices and understanding, you know, their perspective will go a long way.
Yeah, I love that. Chris, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're touching on all the right themes here, and ultimately, at the end of the day, every employee tends to be time poor, and when we think about, you know, what it looks like to be quote unquote consumer grade, I think it's just remembering we are more than just analysts and IT support managers and drivers, but we're also moms, we're budding guitar players and painters. And, you know, when we think about ourselves as consumers, you know, how often are we choosing to consume 1 hour webinars or 8-page PDFs? Are there opportunities for us to reframe our content into micro content formats and the like? So I think just really thinking through what our actual consumer experience is, and more specifically, our consumer experience with world-class brands. What does that look like, and what can we learn from that with our own approach to communications?
I love that, because like so many frontline workers are screaming at us for less. Please get to the point. Please get to the point quickly. I'm not here to consume your communications. I just need to know what I need to know to do my job. Kate, I'd love your parting advice. Like, if you're the advocate for the frontline, you're our frontline expert here, what would you like to tell all these communicators who are listening? What do you want them to really know, or to do differently, or to think about?
Yeah, just I think, you know, Chris pointed out too, just how time starved we are. There's just absolutely no second in the day. And I've, you know, been on the floor doing 5 different things, had an employee come to me and ask me for something, and I've had to say, I'm so sorry, I cannot listen to you right now. Can you hold that and come back to me in an hour? Because I just literally did not have the space to process one more thing, and I wanted to give them the respect of being able to fully listen to them. So that's what our days look like. So communication just has to be quick and to the point and valuable, right? Like I don't need to read, like you said, Joanna, I don't need to read your 8-page PDF. Like I just need the like when, where, how. That's all I need to know. So yes, we're time starved. So make it quick and snappy and engaging would be fantastic.
Again,
On
this is
top
why
of
our job
that,
is so hard.
engaging. Yes.
I think
Yes, it is hard.
we can channel our inner anthropologist to go out and shadow people. We can channel our inner journalist to create the great story. But it really does come back to what I'm hearing from all of you is that there's really a need to understand your audience. Doesn't it go back to comms 101? Like, who are we trying to reach? What do we need them to do? Or how do we want them to feel? And what are the best ways to do that? And I think the tricky bit is it's different in every organization. Like, I can't give you a magic formula now. But I think we've covered the really good fundamentals of frontline comms. This has been a really great conversation. I have enjoyed it. I have learned a lot. Thank you very much. That is all the time we have. So I'm going to go back to you, Barbara. Thank you very much to all our panelists.
Thank you, Joanna. I was glued to the screen for that session. A huge thanks to Stephanie, Chris, and Kit. You've really given us a lot to think about. I think everyone can agree that frontline comms are behind, and we need to be striving for more than just catching up to consumer grade. We need best-in-class technology and experience. I also loved Chris's tagline of making comms more human-centric versus just employee-centric. My big takeaway is that frontline workers are time-starved, and we need to make sure our comms are quick, to the point, and valuable. Let's take a moment to reflect and have an honest look about how it's going. You're going to see another poll pop up on your screen. We're going to give it a sec to pull up that poll. We want to hear from you. How well do your internal communications resonate with your frontline workers? Let us know in that poll. Give us your feedback. If it's going well, can you share maybe a little bit of that secret sauce in the chat with everybody tuning in today? Is it your technology or your digital landscape that you have set up? Maybe it's the type of snackable, fun content you're creating. If you're struggling, what do you think is your biggest blocker? And checking out these results, it sounds like it's going okay, but there's room for improvement, right? And I know some of the comms really aren't working. Taking a look at these results, it seems like we really, we're facing some challenges, but the good news is hopefully today we're arming you with the resources to address some of those blockers and challenges. So thanks so much for being honest with us and sharing with us today. All right, we are in the home stretch. We've got just one final session to go for the Frontline Summit. Next up, we've got something really special. We have a recording from a podcast taping that takes us behind the scenes of one of the most impressive frontline engagement stories out there. Katie Macaulay, host of the Internal Comms podcast, is joined by Joe Hudson, Group Director of Internal Communications at Bupa. Watch as they unpack how Bupa, one of the world's largest healthcare organizations, is using Workvivo to connect over 60,000 frontline employees and all of their lessons learned along the way. I got a sneak preview of this session, and it's filled with gems about comms that actually get noticed and how to build trust at scale. So you're not going to want to miss this final session. Let's tune in.
Hello and welcome to the Internal Comms podcast with me, Katie Macaulay. I'm on a mission to make communication at work work. My guest today is Joe Hudson, Group Director of Internal Communication at Bupa. It's my great pleasure to bring you this wide-ranging conversation with Joe. And a huge challenge, and the challenge of the day, is that unwired population. Give us a sense, do you have a sense of the percentage of employees that have very limited digital access, not sat in front of a screen, maybe not even have a desk at all? Do you have a sense of how big that is within your workforce?
I don't know what the numbers are specifically, but it is a big proportion of our organisation who are on the front line, talking to customers, don't have access to an email address. And it's a huge challenge. I think if I think back to 4 years ago, before we launched Workvivo, we had no real way of directly contacting those people.
Right.
So really relied heavily on manager cascade. And clearly that always depends on how comfortable your manager feels about communicating. And that doesn't always come naturally to every manager. As much as you provide the materials for them to help them do that, that doesn't always happen, or doesn't happen in the right way. So it's a huge challenge that I know lots of organisations face that have a huge frontline population, especially in healthcare.
Yes.
Because we have to be so careful about customer data, and so and time, protecting that time that people can spend with customers. That should be the focus of what they're doing.
Yeah. When I started back in internal comms, and we don't need to say how long ago that was, I don't think, the technology with which we had, at our fingertips was very, very limited.
Sure.
We live in a world now where there are a sea of applications and all sorts of things that you can use to sort of reach the front line. How did you approach the decision to choose Workvivo? Were there some non-negotiables in your mind when you were looking at evaluating all these different options?
Yeah, for me, so translation is a massive thing for us.
Right.
Like I said, we have 8 official languages at Bupa, and being able to streamline that process and have something that was automated, that was able to translate content so that we weren't constantly going to the businesses to say, can you put this into Polish for us? Can you put this into Turkish for us? And we didn't have to spend huge amounts of money with translation agencies, because we don't have huge budgets to do that. That was really important. I really wanted a platform that served content to people in their native language and felt native to them. So that was a really key consideration. The other big one was, supplier relationship is hugely important to me. So a team that we felt was an extension of our team, that we could pick up the phone and ask them about things, or that if something happened and went wrong, that we would know that we could get support, as quickly as possible. And then I wanted us to have some input into the roadmap and the development of the tool.
Wow.
And with some of the bigger suppliers, we knew that we wouldn't be, while we're a big organisation, we're not the biggest organisation in the world, and we knew that we wouldn't be a priority for them. So I really wanted a supplier that would work with us to develop the tool. I often find with a lot of these internet tools that they are developed by developers rather than practitioners, and people who have expertise in comms and know what they're looking for. And so to work with developers, obviously Workvivo do have developers, to work with them to say, this isn't working quite right for us, can you help us to pivot it slightly, or create this new functionality that will do things slightly differently? That's the dream, really, and that's what we found in Workvivo as a partner.
One of the biggest challenge I hear a lot is around getting employees to download an app on a personal device. Was this an issue? Because presumably not all your people are given work devices.
No, absolutely. It was something we were really worried about to begin with. We didn't know how it was going to go, how people would receive it. I think what we found was that people were really ready to be more involved in the organisation, and wanted to feel part of the wider Bupa, not just their small part of Bupa, but to feel part of something bigger. And they were eager to hear what was going on and to get involved in some of the fun stuff we have going on. So it wasn't as hard as we thought it might be. There's still pockets of the organisation where it's more of a challenge. We have quite a large proportion of self-employed people who might work in dental clinics or in clinics in Poland specifically. So that's more tricky. Because you need to make that connection with the organisation, with the purpose, for them clearer, and help them. For lots of people, they don't maybe feel like they work for Bupa. They will actually work for their clinic or, their specific entity, if you like. So it's still not 100% there, but it's always going to be a work in progress, I think. But yeah, we were pleasantly surprised, I think, with the reaction from our people and the uptake and engagement we've seen from them. So yeah, it was great to see.
Did you have to work hard at kind of pinpointing the benefits for different sort of personas and roles within the business? Was that a key part of that launch plan, I'm guessing?
Absolutely. I think everyone could see that there were challenges with our internal comms model pre-Workvivo. There wasn't one global mailing list. There wasn't an easy way to to communicate with everyone at the same time. And it was quite disjointed, and there wasn't any opportunities to showcase all of the great stuff that was happening across the organisation before then. So it was very manual for us to be able to storytell what's happening in Australia or what's happening in, Chile to people. And people wanted to see that. So I think that was the need for it was very clear. I think that we did have to explain the difference between Teams and Workvivo. So why would I need this new tool, especially to the wired population who have, communication at their fingertips,
Yes.
as opposed to those unwired people that didn't before. So what do you use Workvivo for? What do you use Teams for? What do you use email for? And then definitely a journey, because we wanted to make sure that we were reducing the number of emails that were going out. How do we explain that when people are saying, well, I want to send my, newsletter to this population of people, and we're saying, actually, we're not doing that anymore. You have this new tool, you can communicate to everyone in a really engaging way, but it's on this platform now. We're not sending emails anymore. We don't want to clutter up inboxes anymore. So yeah, a bit of explanation and education around some of that stuff.
I think that's so important. It's interesting to me that actually when clients come and they say, I need a new tool, I need a new platform, I need a new channel, often what they first need is just to identify the core purpose of each one and explain that to their employees.
Exactly. What are you trying to achieve?
Yes.
Who are you trying to target? What are you trying to say to them? And then what is the best channel for that?
Yeah, absolutely. And have you reduced email traffic?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And to the point where we are looking at, whether we need our newsletter tool anymore, because I think there will always be a need for an email tool of some form for certain situations. But actually, the number of licenses that we have currently, we think we can probably reduce that by about half. It's not being used as much, which is great to see. And Workvivo are about to launch their new newsletter tool as well, and we're going to be giving that a go and piloting it across the organisation. So I'm hopeful that will happen in the next few months.
You're at sort of the end of this 4-year period of launch and adoption. Is there something you know now that you wish you'd known back then?
I think when we set out on the journey, we did spend a lot of time talking and worrying about how people would use the tool. Yes. Whether they would use it in the right way, whether they might use it in the wrong way to say things that we didn't want on the platform, to, bring their own personal agendas into work, talk about politics or religion, those kinds of things, which can be very divisive, and we just didn't want that in a work environment. So there was lots of conversations about that and the risk of what we would do in that scenario. But in the end, we very much felt that we needed to trust our people and have an adult relationship with them. They are adults, and we shouldn't be, treating them like children, and understand that this is a professional platform. And that is really our experience of it, that actually people are very accountable for their words. They're of course allowed to have an opinion, but they do take accountability for those words. And it's a bit like how you talk on LinkedIn as a professional social media platform, as opposed to how you might talk on Facebook. And that's definitely the difference that we see. We also have some really fun groups that people can join to talk about their pets or their hobbies or their holiday and share their photos. And so there are outlets for those kinds of conversations, but in the right way, so that the work is kind of separated from that personal content.
Perfect. I imagine getting leaders on the platform must have been key, because leaders, we know, are role models. They set the tone.
Yes.
How did you go about that challenge?
I think we're very lucky, because the top of the organisation, our very senior leaders, really do role model it. They see the value of it. They use it themselves. And Iñaki, our CEO, uses it himself and does a lot of his own comms himself. He wants to write it. He wants to be authentic, which is fantastic. He's very good at role modelling that. We do a lot of storytelling, so sharing successes that leaders have seen when using Workvivo to its full potential. So I think it's really, you can't ever make a direct correlation, I think, between using an internal comms platform and engagement scores.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely very clear that the leaders that use Workvivo to its full potential see huge increases in their people engagement scores.
Wow.
So we are able to really share their success and tell those stories, and hopefully encourage other leaders to get on board and use it as well and give it a go. There's nothing to
Yes.
lose, right? It's about making some time in your diary to dip in, comment on people's posts, like and share people's posts, and understanding the impact that has on those people. That actually makes a real difference to see that you know, to feel heard and to feel seen by your leader, by that name that you
Yes.
recognize as the leader of your business. That feels like a really big deal. I certainly feel it when, you know, a leader likes one of my posts. So I know
Yes.
that is the same for other people. And to show that they authentically and, you know, genuinely care about what you're doing, the work that you do, is really important. And to see leaders having fun on the platform as well, I think is really
nice.
important. So it's really easy to show the link for people and for them to see that. There's still work to do, and there always will be. And it's about how we help those leaders get more comfortable doing that kind of thing and finding the space in their very busy diaries to engage in that way, but understanding the importance of really getting involved, and communication is part of their role.
I love that you've found this link, and I think, you know, between using the platform and engagement, and you're absolutely right, whether that's causation or correlation,
Yes.
who cares?
It doesn't matter.
There's a link,
Yes.
which is powerful, and presumably there's a little bit of a snowball effect.
Yes.
Other leaders seeing others thinking, they're doing this, maybe I should be too.
Absolutely, especially
Yeah.
when it comes from right at the top of the organisation.
Yes.
Actually, their direct reports then see their leader doing that, so they then take the lead and do it themselves, and you do see it ripple through the organisation. Absolutely.
This may be a very difficult question, and we can dodge it and cut it out. I'm sure Workvivo won't mind. Years ago, when I did some research for a book I wrote about how to get more social, people on social platforms, I was asked this by organisations where the CEO would get in a lift and wouldn't even make eye contact with people.
Wow.
I was thinking, if you're not social in that situation, how can you expect me to be social in another digital way? I'm just wondering, maybe it's too much to say, has it impacted the culture, do you think?
I personally think yes. I think, you know, it's very easy, and maybe I think it's a mixture of introducing something like a platform like Workvivo and having that much more kind of informal engagement tool.
Yes.
And COVID, actually. I think the impact of COVID was that leaders had to be much more authentic. There had to be much more openness about, like, we were all suddenly at home, right? And our kids were in the background, our pets, you know, the doorbell was ringing and you were kind of interrupted, and it became, the lines between work and personal life became much more blurred, and that, I think, opened the doors to authenticity, which we at Bupa haven't seen leave again. I think that's been really lovely. We've been able to hold on to that authenticity and openness in our culture and from our leaders. So I've been really grateful for that. I think it's good to take those positives out of that situation.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's not always going to come naturally to all people, and that's okay. And we'll do what we can to support those people that find it, who are less comfortable with doing that.
Yes.
But I think if you can always lead with yourself and who you are first, I think that's the only thing you can do, really. That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. How about content? Has having the tool changed the way you think about content, changed your editorial decisions, changed your experimentation with formats, for example?
I think so. I mean, it's opened all of our eyes to the sorts of things we can create. I think there's a couple of things for me. So we think very deeply about our audience and how time poor they are. So all content has to be super short and sweet and get to the point as quickly as possible. And then the other thing for me is, how do we make it fun always? You know, we spend more time at work than we do at home. And I don't know about you, but my attention span when I'm looking at content in my personal life is extremely short.
Yeah.
A lot of the time I'm watching a TV program and scrolling on my phone at the same time. So, you know, I need something that's going to grab my attention and keep me engaged. And that's no different at work. And you know, we don't do boring comms in my team. I've banned it. So yeah, how can we always bring the fun to any piece of comms? Because I want people to feel like, oh, there's a new bit of content there. Let me look at that. I want people to feel that that's something they want to engage with, rather than scrolling past, which is so easy to do.
not doing boring. I love that. And I think all comms teams should have that as a little we don't do boring.
On the wall, yes, yeah.
Often that does require, though, you convincing a stakeholder somewhere that you don't need to sit behind the desk, speak to camera, do that kind of stage thing. Let's jazz it up a little bit. I was speaking to a client the other day. Their CFO brought their children in to explain the P&L.
Great.
And I thought, what a fantastic
That's a great idea. I'm stealing that.
It's a great idea, isn't it? But it does require a leader to sort of adopt and accept and be, say, I'll be brave and go with it. Do you have to do a little bit of that behind the scenes, convincing people to go that way?
I think that I think because we've been on that journey for a few years now,
Right.
we've built the trust, we've built the reputation with our leaders that they do. When I come to them with a mad idea, they're kind of okay with it. They're like, oh, well, let's give it a go. And I'm okay with trying something new and it not always working. That's fine with me. Like, let's give it a go. If it doesn't work, we don't have to use it.
Yes, that's true.
Or we can use it. If it doesn't get the engagement, we won't do it again like that. So it's that, I think, and getting people comfortable with that has been really, really key. And actually, I think we're there. We've got, we're in a good place with leadership, and they do give things a go, and they are game for a laugh. And yeah, it's good.
It used to be, before all this wonderful technology, you'd sort of send something out and there was this deathly silence. And I can remember in the 90s, if I'm being really honest, silence was taken as success.
Sure.
It was like, no one's complained. Fantastic.
Yes.
Now I'm guessing, but tell me, there must be quite a lot of data and metrics at your fingertips to tell you what's working and what's not working.
And it's really visible to everyone as well. I think, you can I think because you can see the likes and the comments, right? People know if something's been engaging or not, if people have reacted to it or not. So so there's obviously the deep analytics, in the admin space, you can go and look at the dashboards and all the rest of it, and you can pull all the reports out for our team and then obviously to share. But it's that visible data that I think it's really obvious if something's worked or hasn't. And so, there's a lot more transparency, I think, because of that data, which is great. But it also gives us huge evidence that we can use to say this hasn't worked and we shouldn't do it like this again. This content, however, works fantastically well. We know that our people want more of that, so let's do it this way. And it makes it much easier for communicators to have those conversations with stakeholders if they do have a clear idea of what they want to do. That video of you talking to camera didn't work.
Yes.
So let's get your kids in and try this and have a go with it. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I love that so much. You've got the hard evidence to back up what you know intuitively is right.
Yeah.
Let's help viewers, listeners with the business case a little bit here and just sort of throw around some ideas about what they might say as the business value. I was reading a research report, I think it came out of MIT and Stanford very recently, that said, done this deep dive into an organization with a social platform and discovered that it flattened the hierarchy. It had all done all sorts of wonderful things. You've talked about the link between engagement. Any other sort of business benefits that you think might have come through?
I think that when we set out on the Workvivo journey, we were just about to launch our new corporate global strategy to everyone at Bupa, which was a very important time. Obviously, our CEO was new into role, high stakes. We wanted it to go well for him and to deliver the benefits that and for everyone to galvanize behind a global corporate strategy and all pull in the same direction and be aiming for the same targets and the same vision that he had. And so I think Workvivo has been an incredibly important tool for us to help us get that message out. I don't think we would have been able to do what we've done in terms of engaging 100,000 people around the world in that strategy if we hadn't had a tool like that. We had disparate intranets that didn't talk to each other. We had pockets of email distribution lists, patchy cascade through managers, and the amount of kind of people, time and effort it would have taken to deliver the message to everyone at Bupa through those methods would have been, impossible. And we've been able to see, and again, you cannot make direct links between a comms platform and business success, but I'd like to think that we've played a really important role in the business's success in the last 4 years. You know, we've seen, increases in profit and revenue,
Wow.
people engagement, customer numbers, market share, return on investment.
Wow.
Every single business metric is going up in a big way. And, I would love us to say that, in part of that is to do with the fact that we've managed to get all of our people singing the same song and pulling the same direction. It's been a huge kind of enabling factor in that success, I think.
Yes, wonderful. Now, there's a question that's going to intrigue our audience. You've already hinted about a new corporate strategy. What does a sleeping elephant have to do with your business transformation at Bupa?
People always look at me like I've got two heads when I talk about Bupa's elephant. So going back to 2021, our CEO is about to enter into the new role as global CEO. His name's Iñaki. He came from our Spanish business. He'd been the CEO of the Europe and Latin American market unit, been in the business for a long time. And he talked about Bupa as an elephant. And he said that we were strong and robust and big, but we were asleep and we needed to wake up and get running. And so we really took that analogy and ran with it, literally. And we've just had really good fun with it. It's been such a fantastic analogy for us to use to get everyone galvanized and excited and inspired. And the storytelling we've been able to do with the elephant has been incredible. And we launched with a fantastic animation that's told the story of why an elephant and what were we trying to do and the behaviours we needed to change in order to get up and run, to compete with our competitors and outperform them. And we had that 3-year strategy period. We've just launched the second phase of the strategy story, which is called Savannah 27, which is aiming for 2027 and the goals we have there. And really, having spent the last 3 years getting the elephant up and running and awake, now is time for us to look out across the savannah at the Bupa's and the elephant's role in wider society, which again is chapter 2 of a fantastic story, which is just a comms dream for us, really. It's been so interesting for us to work on. It's been really an opportunity for us to flex our creative muscles and like I say, have fun with it. It all comes down to, is it engaging? Does it get our people inspired and interested? And it really has. So yeah, it's been great.
What piece of bad advice or outdated thinking do you think still dogs the comms profession, particularly the internal comms profession?
I think that lots of people think comms is easy.
Don't they just?
And that is so infuriating to me. Internal comms is expertise in the same way that finance is expertise, that risk, that technology, that legal is expertise. And when you come to me to create a communication campaign, I will provide you with that expertise based on years and years of experience and knowledge and understanding of how people consume communications. Anyone can knock something together. It doesn't mean people are going to read it or engage with it or care about it.
Yes.
I'll help you with that, and I'll make you famous if you let me and if you listen.
Another great tagline. I'll make you famous. Who doesn't want that?
Absolutely. Yeah, but take us seriously, and as comms professionals, we should also stand up for ourselves on that point. I think I feel that very deeply and talk to my team about it a lot, that we are experts, we are subject matter experts. And if someone's not listening to you, then it's okay for you to take a step back and let them make their own mistakes. But you're there to provide strategic advice and counsel. You're not there to faff about with slide decks.
Yes.
Add value and add expertise to the conversation.
Really love that. How would you complete this sentence? World-class internal communication is
not boring. Just to carry on the theme, a broken record again. Not boring, innovative, always linked to business outcomes, I think. And that's ultimately everything I try and do is linked in some way to how we impact our customer ultimately. So always remembering that having that in the back of your mind will help focus the attention on the right things in a campaign.
It comes back to that expertise, because
Yeah.
you're not just creating any old campaign
For the sake of
you're
it.
exactly
Yeah.
you're linking it back, you're thinking about the bandwidth of the audience, all of that sort
Absolutely.
of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
Thanks to Joe and Katie for letting us share those highlights from your discussion. I loved hearing Bupa's story of digital transformation. And I think Joe makes such a great point. Comms don't need to be boring. You can be effective, authentic, and have some real fun with your communications, actually grabbing attention in an environment where everyone, like we said before, is time starved. You can clearly see that direct correlation between fun and engaging comms and best in class engagement numbers. If you enjoyed the snippets of the conversation today with Joe and Katie and want to hear more, we'll be sharing the full podcast episode on our social, so keep your eyes peeled. All right, and we are popping up a quick poll. If you'd like to learn more about how Workvivo helps reach and engage frontline teams like Bupa's, just drop your info into that poll and we'll be in touch. So before we wrap up, I have two quick reminders. First, we've still got that giveaway going, so don't forget to make your post on LinkedIn, do it now, and tag Workvivo. And second, be sure to check out the full Frontline Gap report in the resources tab below. There is so much compelling data in there that will help inform your frontline strategy, and it's completely free, so take advantage. What an incredible day it has been here at the first ever Frontline Summit from Workvivo by Zoom. From the moment we kicked things off, the energy has been electric. We've heard from global thought leaders, frontline champions, and some of the biggest organizations out there, all sharing bold ideas, hard truths, and actionable strategies to close the frontline gap. Whether it was Josh Bersin breaking down those 6 drivers of frontline experience, or our amazing customer panel sharing how they're cutting through the noise with real-time personalized comms, we've seen the impact that's possible when we put the front line first. The data we unveiled today in the Frontline Gap report paints a clear picture, but they're not just stats. They're wake-up calls. But what's even more powerful is seeing the momentum building around solutions. From Workvivo for Frontline to our next-gen roadmap, we're not just talking about change, we're building it as we listen to and learn directly from the frontline. A huge thank you to all of our incredible speakers, the panelists, and everyone who joined us today from across the globe. To our audience, your engagement, your questions and comments just lit up the chat all day long, and it really reminded us why this work matters. And I have to give a massive shout out to the team behind the scenes today of today's summit. We could not have done this without you. If there's one thing today made crystal clear, it's that when we invest in our frontline, everybody wins. And if you enjoyed today as much as I did, we hope you'll join us at an in-person event for our Workvivo Engage event coming soon to London, here in Boston, and Atlanta. I'll be hosting down in Atlanta in August. It's going to be fun. It's going to be hot, so please come say hello. And as we wrap up, don't let this be the end. Let it be a starting point. Keep the conversations going, share what you've learned, and most importantly, take action. Thank you again for being a part of the Frontline Summit. Let's keep showing the frontline the love they deserve, and we will see you soon. Thank you.